of the nation's leaders is shot and injured by a man witnesses say may have been targeting members of the Republican Party.
A gunman opened fire on members of Congress and their staffs as they were practicing for tomorrow's annual charity baseball game. Authorities are continuing to investigate the crime, and the assailant has now died from his injuries.
Good evening, everyone. I am Amanda Hill.
And I'm Lee Goldberg. The shooting raises a lot of questions about the security and the political climate in our country. We'll tackle all of those today. But first, here's what we know so far about the shooting.
This morning at a baseball field in Alexandria, Virginia, several members of the Republican Party gathered to play. Officials say a gunman walked onto the field and opened fire. House Majority Whip Steve Scalise was among the 5 people injured. He was shot in the hip and is in critical condition. 2 Capitol police officers who bravely stepped into the scene sustained non-life-threatening injuries. The shooter was shot and killed by police, as you just heard the president say.
Now, 2 other victims were taken to the hospital. Zach Barth, a staff member on Capitol Hill, and Matt Micah, a lobbyist. George Washington Hospital says that 2 people were brought in and listed in critical condition, but would not confirm or deny if those 2 people are Barth and Micah.
Now, news of the morning's shootings spread throughout the world very quickly, as we saw.
Yeah, and that obviously includes the greater Washington, D.C. area. Now, Mount Ararat High School alum Eric Potholm works about 2 miles away from where all of this happened, and we got a chance to speak with him just a short time ago.
I mean, it's shocking, and, you know, that for those viewers who don't know, that, you know, that baseball game really that goes on Thursday night is a celebration really of bipartisanship between the 2 parties, and they play softball and whatnot, and that was obviously a practice, or baseball, and that was a practice this morning for them. So, you know, really shocking, and sad and saddening. I mean, there were obviously members of Congress, but also Capitol Hill aides who work hard for these members, and again, brave men and women in the security team from Capitol Hill who were there protecting the members, and fortunately they were there to react quickly and in a heroic fashion. But no, again, it just shocks you, and very surprising to see that happen again in a community, in a nice neighborhood like that. Again, a few miles from the Capitol. Obviously, there's always a strong security presence around the Capitol, but when you get out into a neighborhood like this, you think even a less chance something like this could happen.
Now, this is a developing story. Many of you have been following our coverage live on Facebook throughout the day, and a lot of you have questions about what actually happened. Martin asks about the shooter and what his motives might have been.
Yeah, and he wants an update on motive, profile of shooter. Now, police identified the shooter as James Hodgkinson, a 66-year-old man from Illinois. A look at his Facebook page shows Hodgkinson was an avid supporter of Bernie Sanders, and today the former presidential candidate released a statement saying Hodgkinson may have volunteered on his campaign. Sanders said he was sickened by the despicable act. Hodgkinson also railed against President Trump in a number of Facebook rants, which we'll get to in a moment.
Law enforcement and the FBI say that they haven't gathered enough evidence to say whether or not this was politically motivated, but officials do say that the shooter was heard asking whether or not this was a baseball practice for Republicans or Democrats before he opened fire. Law enforcement at Hodgkinson's hometown say that he has a criminal record. The Belleville, Illinois Police Department says that they went to Hodgkinson's house in the last few months, responding to reports that he was firing a high-powered rifle on his property. Police say he put the gun away when officers asked him to stop.
The FBI and law enforcement have surrounded the shooter's home, and the investigation into his intent is ongoing, but police say despite their previous interactions with Hodgkinson, they did not believe he was planning an imminent attack.
Anything the FBI asks us to do, we will help them with.
There was no indication in any way that he was going to commit a violent act imminently?
No, not that we were aware of, no.
And you were not aware of any ill feelings towards any specific groups of people or the president or anything like that?
No, none whatsoever.
The question of the gunman's intent highlights the tense political climate today.
Yeah, News Center's Chris Costa sat down with Dr. Jeannie Hay, the Dean of the College of Arts and Science at the University of New England. She's worked at universities across the country in political science and explains how we can diffuse intense political discussions.
But how did people in general get to this point where we are so polarized?
There are so many factors, and it's hard to say exactly when a culture evolves why it does that way. I think once a culture moves in that direction, it's very hard to take it back. But there's no question that the internet has, the good side of it is that it has added more voices to political debate. The potentially bad side of it is that many of those voices are doing so anonymously. And we know that when people interact anonymously, they speak in extremes. People no longer go to a single news source, but instead go to their partisan news source. So when you're constantly being fed or getting the angle on the news that fits your predetermined ideas, you're more likely to be partisan. So it makes it kind of hard sometimes to then revert and try to have a civil conversation, say in a classroom, like we try here at UNE.
What is the difference between somebody who's very passionate about whatever their cause that they're supporting or their party that they're supporting? What is the difference between that passion and then perhaps maybe fervor or frenzy, or where is that line?
When you say, I'm not willing to listen to the other side, only my side is valid, then that for me has crossed the line, because it's showing that you're not genuinely interested in learning and refining your idea, but you're just interested in confirming your idea.
What can the average person do, whether it's about this incident or not, diffuse that divisiveness that you believe will come out of this?
Even if somebody comes and starts shouting at you or spouting an opinion with which you disagree, if you model behavior that shows you're not just going to scream in their face back, but that you're going to listen and even say, you know, I really want to understand how you feel because I think differently, but it'll help me. That is the most important thing.
And we'll have a live update from Washington, D.C. in just a few minutes. Next on Now, it's a confrontation at a pond. It went viral. We will get to the bottom of this controversial video. So many of you are reacting to it. Plus,
it was like cool to see just like all the nerves and stuff and like watch things that I can't see like inside myself just like come to life in front of me.
Exploring ancient ruins, looking under the sea, walking into an active volcano, all without leaving the classroom. See this new learning technology next on Now.
Coming up tonight on 207, Donald Shoup might make your life better because he spent a lot of time thinking about something you haven't: parking, how to do it more efficiently or cost effectively, and he does it with a sense of humor. His website is shoupdog.com. We'll meet him tonight on 207.
An exchange recorded on an iPhone at Rang Pond has generated thousands of comments and more than 10,000 shares. Shauna Lynn made the recording after she says a woman yelled at her 8-year-old daughter who has autism and was swimming. She was making loud noises and flapping her arms. Lynn claims the woman, a speech therapist who works with children with disabilities including autism, used profane words and asked the girl to be quiet.
This posting has generated a lot of comments. Among them, Sin posted, "People are so ignorant." Gina writes, "Your child's noise came from a place of happiness. Her noise came from a place of ignorance and self-hate that she feels the need to spread."
Now, we spoke with a Portland area woman who has 2 children on the autism spectrum. She said the video is sad and hard to watch.
When it had become that it was verified that she did in fact work with this population, it was horrifying. Somebody with that knowledge and experience should be more understanding and tolerant of these children's behaviors.
We spoke with the superintendent of schools at SAD 17 in Oxford Hills, where the speech therapist worked. He tells us that both the school district and the principal at the high school are investigating what happened.
Now, the woman in that video just responded to our request for a comment, and as she says, the comments are, quote, causing me immediate harm and injury. I have received numerous and continuing death threats and threats of violence. She has wrongfully tried to put me in a false public light. She was an aggressor with a child that was in distress and unattended. She attacked me physically and has used false information on Facebook to attack my reputation. She has contacted my work site, end quote.
That speech therapist, who is a contracted employee, will not be offered a contract to work in that district next year. We will have more on this story tonight on News Center at 6.
All right, still to come on now. How would you like to go on a field trip to Mount Everest or maybe the rainforest? We'll show you how middle school students in our state get to do just that.
And the full forecast coming up next.
Today we are bringing you extensive coverage of the shooting in Washington, D.C., where a member of Congress was injured this morning.
Blaine Alexander is an NBC correspondent, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Blaine, what is the mood in the Capitol right now?
So Lee and Amanda, good afternoon to you both. I think it's very safe to say that it is an emotional mood today on Capitol Hill, a very somber mood, but certainly a lot of emotion. Keep in mind, many of the members who were at that baseball field today, those who weren't injured, reported to Capitol Hill, many of them still wearing their baseball uniform from that practice today. Just within the past hour or so, we've heard from about 3-4 different members of Congress holding different news conferences and just kind of briefing the public on what happened. And a number of them got choked up while they were talking. They talked about the officers that saved their lives this morning. They talked about seeing Congressman Steve Scalise get hit and a number of other people there get hit. So it's certainly an emotional day here on the Hill this morning, guys.
Now, as a high-ranking member of the Republican Party, does Congressman Scalise have his own security team?
Yes, he does. So that's a good point to bring up. So there have been renewed talks about security, and is enough being done essentially to keep members of Congress safe. So to your point, as a member of House Security, he has his own security detail with him. That's why there happened to be a number of Capitol Police officers at the baseball field this morning who were able to immediately jump into action and return fire. On more than one occasion since that shooting, guys, I have heard people who were there say there is absolutely no doubt that those officers saved lives this morning. If they weren't there, then a number of people would have possibly been killed. So it's renewing this kind of question of, for the rest of the members, the hundreds of other members who serve day in and day out on Capitol Hill, does more need to be done to keep them safe? Congressman Langford from Oklahoma made an interesting point earlier today, saying that, you know, even though leadership gets a security detail, everyone faces the same threat. And we've been hearing a lot of people talk about the rhetoric. This is really an icy political climate, as you all both know very well. And so they're saying that some of the rhetoric has been heightened. They've been receiving more death threats in the past few months than they have in previous terms. And so there are questions now of what else should be done or could be done to make sure that something like this doesn't happen when they're out in public.
Blaine, any idea if their Congress is planning to go back to regular session anytime soon?
Sure. So today was certainly an abnormal day. The House came into session very briefly in the morning just for a show of support, essentially. They prayed on the House floor. House Speaker Paul Ryan and then Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi both spoke, and then they adjourned. We do know that tomorrow they're going to come back into session at 10 a.m. So House will be in session again. A number of hearings and different things were postponed today. Some events were canceled. Still yet to be seen when those will resume. But yes, business will resume. I don't want to say as normal tomorrow, but business will pick back up tomorrow. But one thing we've heard a lot of today, guys, is people saying, you know what, we need to come together. We need to unify, of course, not just when it comes to politics, but just, again, tamping down that rhetoric. So we may see kind of a new way and a new mindset going forward when they resume business tomorrow.
All right, Blaine Alexander live at the Capitol. Thank you very much.
As the FBI continues to investigate, there's some focus on the shooter's social media posts, and Katie Ortiz is here with more on that.
And Amanda, Facebook has since taken down his page, but we got a chance to look at it before they did. Now, in a post from late March, Hodgkinson described President Trump as a traitor. He wrote, "Trump has destroyed our democracy. It's time to destroy Trump and company." That comment was linked to a petition calling for the removal of the Trump administration for, quote, misprision of treason. The shooter ran a business as a home inspector. Also, JTH Inspections has this disclaimer now on their Yelp page, warning readers it's being monitored by Yelp's support team. It reads in part, "This business has recently been in the news in connection with a recent tragedy. We will ultimately remove comments that appear to be motivated more by the recent events than by the reviewer's own experience with the business." USA Today also reports that Hodgkinson specifically singled out Representative Scalise back in 2015 on Facebook, saying he's a Republican that should lose his job, but they gave him a raise instead.
All right, Kate, thank you very much.
A lot of prayers and thoughts coming through our Facebook page right now
Absolutely.
from our viewers. And Keith here with the weather, and it's actually kind of a nice day today.
Yeah, straightforward. I promised today would be beautiful. Tomorrow, very similar. Weather everyone can agree on.
If you didn't like today, I don't like you.
You got problems. That's what I said. I said I got a problem with you if you got a problem with this weather. No, really, really good stuff today. 76 officially in Portland. Actually did a little bit better than I thought we would. 68 in Bangor, 65 in Millinocket. Nice bright sunshine though everywhere. Dew points really low right now, in the 40s in most spots, even some 30s. To give you some idea on our dew point scale here, we were up here in the uncomfortable to almost oppressive mode before this front came through, and now we're down below what they call invigorating. Bottom line, it is fall-like dry out there, and I think that adds to the enjoyment for a lot of people with the sunshine. Mid-70s and dry is a lot different than even upper 70s with a high dew point. A couple of clouds up here across down east and northern Maine, but they're puffy fair weather clouds. Won't be any problems tonight, won't be any problems tomorrow either. The only difference tomorrow is that it will be a little bit cooler along the coastline as that sea breeze kicks in a little bit quicker. So that will be probably more upper 60s, low 70s, not as many mid 70s compared to what we saw today. Clouds increase Thursday night, and then Friday is the wettest day of the work week. There'll be showers moving in. Not everyone will get hit by them, but they'll come through in the afternoon and evening and have some pretty decent coverage over the state before they start to slide out on Saturday morning. Saturday morning starts with showers, but ends the day there on Saturday with some sunshine. So here we go. Thursday afternoon, some clouds move in. Here come the showers on Friday through Friday afternoon, and then continuing through Saturday morning, particularly along the coast, before we get those clouds and showers out of there. Notice Saturday afternoon, probably pretty nice. And I'm actually liking the way that Sunday looks now, Father's Day. I think the front is moving quickly on the front end and slower on the back end, meaning we can carve out most of the day on Sunday, and that's why I have only a 30% chance of showers on Sunday. Pretty good chance of a nasty line of thunderstorms on Monday night. We'll watch that for any severe weather potential. But you know, in short, very summary pattern here. It is worth noting, guys, that we'll get a little bit mild, I think, on Sunday and Monday. Although those temperatures are nothing like what we saw a few days ago, it's going to be very humid. So I think particularly on Monday, you know, it could be something like a line like 78 over 65, 66, meaning the dew point will be quite high. So it might be kind of uncomfortable for some people at that point.
All right.
But Father's Day looks good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What'd you get me?
Your kids can handle that, right?
Yeah,
You said that you didn't have much faith in them last
How
time.
many kids does he have?
Huh?
How many kids?
27.
Yeah.
It changes every time.
27 times 0 is still 0 when it comes to presents. So.
About a year ago, Google came out with some technology that would put virtual reality into the classroom.
Yeah, the York School Department applied to be part of the beta program. They went through some testing and were approved. And now, kids in that school system are some of the only ones in our state who are getting lifelike lessons in school. When you walk into York Middle School, part of your day will provide you with a different way to look at things.
I think that it's cool that they're kind of like using virtual reality to make things that would normally be boring in a classroom more interesting.
Besides just the coolness factor, virtual reality provides an incredibly valuable teaching tool. Google Expedition has more than 600 virtual tours to choose from.
We work together with classroom teachers, and they say this is some of the things we're working on. So today we're going to be looking at plant and animal adaptations in Borneo and the rainforest. It's something that aligns perfectly to the curriculum, but we don't have that kind of environment anywhere near here in York. So by having virtual reality, we can take them virtually to a field trip, and they can be immersed into the climate, and so they get to see it real life.
There is a cost to start up this program, about $10,000 for 20 units. But if students have their own smartphones, the program runs on a free app. So the cost is only the glasses, and they can go anywhere from $5 to $20 per pair. There was never any doubt that the investment would be worth it.
And you go into it right away and you see the kids and they just fall in love with being into it. That the first time we did it with the pilot program, you could tell that this was going to be a great thing for the district and for education in general.
It's kind of like a miracle because it's almost like you teleported somewhere across the world and then you're just immersed in all the wildlife or wherever you are.
There are only a handful of school districts that offered virtual reality this year, but the belief is that before too long, virtual reality will become reality for all. Boy, was that fun, and if I had that when I was in school, I would have paid a lot more attention.
For sure. I'm with you on that. All right, Cindy Williams is here with a preview of what's coming up at 5:30.
That's right. One big story. Should it stay or should it go? We are talking about the Katahdin Woods and Waters National Monument. For the first time, one of the president's representatives actually came to Maine and checked it out for himself, and we went right along with him. We're going to show you what he has to say about it, and he's the one who's going to make a decision on whether it stays or goes. That's all coming up at 5:30.
All right, thanks, Cindy.
All right, News Center Now continues after this. All right, we're brain dropping.
Today's brain drop is very pertinent right now. We all know that you feel more uncomfortable when it's very humid out, right? When there's a high dew point.
True.
Why is that? Well, it's because the mechanism of sweat doesn't work as well in high humidity. So the way that sweat cools your skin is that it forms little droplets on your skin, right? And when there's a low dew point, those droplets evaporate into the atmosphere. Evaporation takes energy, and energy in this case is released as heat. So heat is released from this layer down here near your skin, and the droplets get colder, hence how that cools you down. That's why sweat works. Problem is, when there's a high dew point or high humidity, those droplets cannot readily or sometimes cannot at all evaporate into the atmosphere. So then at that point, you have sweat droplets all over your skin, but they can't evaporate, they can't use the energy, and as such, they can't cool. So that's why to a human, it feels a lot worse when there's a high dew point compared to when there's a low dew point. I've gotten out of a pool in Las Vegas at 98 degrees and been cold because it is so dry, the evaporation takes place so rapidly that you can actually get chilly from that change.
I've never had that. I've never had that happen.
No, I don't spend a lot of time in Vegas
98 degrees?
Yeah, no, never
It happened in Vegas because it was so dry.
Did it stay in Vegas?
Yes, it did.
All right,
until now.
Just checking.
That is really interesting, though. We do, before we go, want to say goodbye to the brainchild of this creation now.
Ryan, come over here.
Ryan and Derek.
Come on,
quick. You have 20 seconds, buddy.
You have 20 seconds.
Run.
He helped create this entire program from its inception. We started meeting about this a year ago. He's leaving us for the heat and the humidity.
Yes.
We won't be able to sweat.
Good luck.
According to Keith. And
sorry.
Do great.
We'll miss him.
Thanks, Ryan.
Should have got you a mic.
Right now.
Should have thought that up.
All right, no worries.